Let's talk horses. Alban Poudret, 40 years in the business, editor of Cavalier Remonte. Hi, Alban.
Hello, Matt.
So, horsing in Switzerland, how did it start?
Oh, a long time ago. I was not born. At the end of the 19th century, there were already clubs, there were already races, a little bit of show jumping. The first society in Switzerland was Yverdon-les-Bains. It was la Société pour l'amélioration de la race chevaline. So it was to improve horse breeding. And it was the idea at this time. And it was a military time. Most of the riders were officers. And we had more and more shows. And Lucerne was one of the first great international horse show, CSIO, in 1908.
Wow.
And then a Nations Cup and a big competition in Switzerland with great riders, a great tradition, but it was mostly a military tradition. We had the Conservatoire of Equestrianism in Bern. It was where the army was based, and the teachers were also from the army. Like in France, in Germany, in other countries, it was a bit the same. And more and more, Switzerland was a great equestrian country and had great result in sport, mostly in dressage at this time. We had Olympic champions, Henri Chammartin, Christine Stückelberg. And then we thought that there would be terrible problem with the end of the cavalry in 1972. But on contrary, it developed again and again.
So, that's the history. The present, we're talking about the past, which was male exclusive almost. If we move forward to today, more than half of the riders are women. How did that transaction occur?
Yes, it was very quick. We thought that we would have a fall of equestrianism in Switzerland with the end of cavalry, but on the contrary, it made it more democratic, with more and more women and kids. And yes, a half perhaps of riders are women in competitions, but 90% in riding schools. So it's really impressive how it changed. And we had, I think, 50,000 horses when the cavalry stopped, and we saw that it would go down. And now we have a bit more than 100,000. So it developed a lot in Switzerland, not only in top sport, and we see the brilliant results of our riders, but also all the sport developed a lot, and we have 10,000 people who ride in competition. We are only 8 million country, so it's a lot, 10,000 making competition, but we have 200,000 that ride regularly, and more than 1 million that rides occasionally.
Let's talk about the horses.
Yes.
Have they changed, bigger, smaller, in the last 100 years? And where do they mainly come from? Are they French, Hungarian, Swiss? What about the horses?
Long question. It's passionate. Breeding is something so interesting. In Switzerland, we had not such a great tradition of breeding. As I said, the first societies, they wanted to improve the breeding. But we had not so many good horses in the 40s, 50s, 60s. 1, 2 sometimes. And then we had a horse, Olympic champion in dressage, Gauguin de Lully. And Jean-Jacques Fumschilling, the breeder of Gauguin, was really someone who tried to improve a lot the Swiss breed, making, of course, also bloods of other countries together, because now when we see the top breeding in sport, they are all in a way cousins, because before you had the German type, the French type with more blood perhaps, and the German was more solid, more powerful, and so on, and Irish and English to go in the nature and make cross country and so. But now it's really not like that. You know, we mixed all the best bloods and best breeds, and I think that horses are more and more cousin, and the Swiss breed made big progress, and now we have breeders, but it's difficult, still difficult, because it costs a lot in Switzerland. Everything is more expensive. So I think we will never have top breeders and big breeding.
So a bit like most products in Switzerland, made in Switzerland, we're sort of the top echelons of the market. Does the average rider, first of all, can you have an average rider, but where do they source their horses from? Are they Swiss bred? Do they buy them in overseas? Let's say I've got a budget of, I don't know, 15, 20,000 Swiss. Where would I go to find my horse?
I think that some Swiss horses are very good, but sometimes they are a bit more expensive. Of course, there are more concurrency in France or in Germany, and so perhaps you will buy a horse abroad. But it depends. It depends always. You meet someone, you meet a horse, and c'est une rencontre. And so I think it depends. And breeding is still developing in Switzerland. If you have this budget, I think you will not have a top sport horse. You will more have a good friend making sport de loisir for your pleasure, walking in the woods and galloping in the woods. But for competition, we will pay a bit more. Or find a very young horse, 4 or 5 years old, that you will build yourself. But for that, you have to be a good rider or to have really good teacher.
You mentioned the numbers of people who ride times. How many people of the millions who've actually rode, how many are owners and how many are part of a club, and how generally does that system work out in Switzerland?
Good question. I think before, till the 80s, we had a lot of powerful clubs and also riding schools with teachers. And it was the center of the sport, of the basis of the sport. And it was very important. But more and more, because also it's more democratic and many secretary or people without so much money want to ride, they found solutions to pay less to have a horse monthly. And so they found private little farms and a lot of little places in the country where they could pay less, perhaps 500, 600, and not 800, 900 or more, like in a big riding club. But a big riding club gives you not only an infrastructure with riding halls, paddocks, and fences, and teachers, and so give you also perhaps a teacher. And that perhaps it developed very quickly, but sometimes it's a problem because we have less and less teachers. We have a lot of horse dealers in Switzerland and very good horse dealers, some of the best in Europe, perhaps, horse dealers, but we have few good teachers. And I think it's a real problem that increase, and we have to find solution to rebuild that, because I think a big part of the success of the Swiss riders in every discipline, and mainly in show jumping because it's a more mediatic discipline, is because we had a great tradition of educating riders, of transmission.
CNN Money Switzerland is about business,
Yes.
and it's about money. If I'm a typical foreigner who comes into Switzerland, is it easy to break into the scene, or is it a closed shop?
No, it's easy. It's easy, and many foreigners come in Switzerland because we're an open country and a lot of people come from abroad, and I think it's really not difficult for them to come to be in a club or to make competition. It's very easy. You can make it very quick. In a few weeks you can go and start and make competition. So it's really not the problem, but you have to find the right horse dealer to have the right good horse, and you have to find a good teacher if you need a teacher, and a good surrounding, and that's very, very important.
Is it easy to find, like in sailing, it's easy to buy a boat, but it's difficult to find a mooring place? Is it the similar thing in Switzerland with horses? Is there plenty of stables available, or is that a challenge?
There are more and more stables. As I said, perhaps even too many, because it's developing so quickly and you have 4 horses there, 6, 7, 8, and sometimes not everything to teach the riders and to make it really safe and worthwhile in an education point of view. But I think there are many, many places, also sometimes just around the frontier, but you have many, many places. Around Lausanne, I think there are 20 riding schools and 40 or 50 places where you can also have horses. So it's really not the problem.
Let's say we've done well in life and we've made our 30, 50 million, what have you. Is it possible to buy land, to have our own stud, have our own... How does the property market go for medium-sized equine properties?
It's not easy to find a property. It's difficult to have it just in front of Lake of Geneva, for instance, and many people want it between Geneva and Lausanne and things like that. So there, it's very difficult to find a nice place because they are kept for a long time by people. But in the campaign, the country, you have a lot of places. The problem is to build a riding hall. Normally, it's the authorization, the political problem to build a riding hall that is very difficult, much too difficult, and I think they have to change a little bit the law, because some places are marvelous for horses, are perfect, but you are not allowed to have a riding hall. That's the problem.
Let's go for the next generation. How do we take them off their PlayStations and how do we encourage them to ride? Is that market going well, or is it a challenge for the next generation?
I think the market is going very well, and I think we are a rich country, we are an equestrian country with a big tradition, and we have stars. Because with Steve Gerda, Olympic champion, #1 in the world, and a so tremendous rider, because also as a man is a fantastic example for the young, and he has really an attitude and values, and say that with sometimes very courageous, and I think he is really an example for our sport, like Roger Federer in tennis. Okay, we are not tennis, but we are an important sport in Switzerland, and with Steve Gerda, now Martin Fuchs, #3 in the world, so now we have 2 out of 3 best riders in the world from Switzerland. It's fantastic time. So I think really that it will increase and develop with such good examples, and I see really a very good future. Perhaps not in every discipline. Before we had a great traditions and medals in dressage or in a 3-day event. Perhaps it will be more difficult also 3-day event because we have not so much place in Switzerland. So we have not huge badminton and burley like in England, for instance. So, but for show jumping and some other disciplines like vaulting, why not also dressage and driving? And so I think we have a good future.
Last question. You're the sports director of the Concours Pic de Genève. That's the biggest show. In the next couple of months, where can people go to watch other shows in Switzerland? 1 minute answer.
Oh, yes. So we had just a show in Lausanne, but it's finished. So we have not a very big international show. We have one in the mountains in Verbier, end of August. The last weekend and week of August in Verbier in the Alps. We have a really nice show. And then we will have Equissima in Lausanne, in Chalet-à-Gobet, up to Lausanne, with a 3-day event and 5 disciplines, so it's really a feast and it's really nice. And I think there are many shows in Chevenet International Show for kids, and many different type of shows before Geneva, the feast of the end of the year, 12th to 15th of December.
Thank you so much for your time.
Pleasure.